Hey there, and welcome back to another episode of Paint with Sean. So, we are continuing today with the painting we've been working on in the past. We've got a beautiful lit up sky for us with a great variation of color. We've got some real depth in the darkness and the detail of the different mountain sets. And so, we've got some things working and we're bringing things forward. And between the last episode and this one, I've studied this picture a little bit, and this is the magic of painting sometimes in a slower sense, where you're not trying to get it all done in one sitting. I've been able to review this a little bit and see where I want to go with this, because this is one that I'm just painting with technique more than something to model. And I'm going to make a few changes today, and this is, again, so fantastic that you have this power as a painter to just decide how you want the world to come about. As I'm looking at this, I tell stories to myself and I get real vested into each painting, so it's been very fun. And, this area that we have coming forward, I want to change it up just a little bit so we can show a little more depth and a little more dynamics to it. So we've got this path sort of coming from behind the mountain, and now it's a very dark color. So we're painting a real cold, wintry type scene, and we've got snow everywhere, so you can't really have a blank path with no snow on it. Maybe there's a real good snowplow service or something going on, but we're going to get right into toning this down a little bit. So I've got this sort of brownish color going on, and there's kind of an idea of some bushes in the background, but we're gonna kind of change it up. So we're gonna come right into our brown color, and I'm gonna just pull some over here and make a little bit of a color, and I'm gonna add a little bit of yellow to it to sort of tone it down, so you can immediately see how much lighter that makes the color compared to the straight brown that we were using. So just a little bit of yellow goes a long way. You can see I barely touched the yellow, and boy, that really drops that color down. Okay, if we want to darken it a little bit, we can add a tad of red to it. Didn't get much in there. And that will bring a little bit more of the depth of the color back to it and a little bit less tan. Okay, so that puts a little deepness in it. And then just to straight lighten it, we can throw some white in there. All right, so again, all we're trying to do is make some color variation. So I put this darker brown on there as a dark color to sort of show through the light once we get that on there. So I've got this lighter brown color in here. Now, when we go to make a trail, the direction of the stroke shows how the path works. Okay, so you can see up here we've got stroke marks that look like it's coming down off of the hill, and then it changes direction. And again, this may be a little far away from the camera, but lack of detail shows distance. So it sort of comes down this way and goes back behind this mountain, and then all of a sudden there's a mountain that sort of has a road coming off of around it, So again, if we wanted to even make this more of a direct path, we could put like fence posts or a guardrail, or you can get real creative. But the strokes, we want the path to come this way. The path will follow where the strokes lead. Okay, so I'm going to start up here in the back, and again, if you paint over something, it's okay. We can always fix it. So don't ever worry about, as you come together. I'm gonna make a little bit of pathway coloration difference. Now, some of this is getting completely covered up, and that's okay, because I have a little bit of a direction that I want to go. All right, so we're going to bring it down, and as I come to this area right here, I'm going to drop it straight down. Okay, so we're going to be able to bring this path around the corner, and it's going to get wider in the front, which again makes it look closer. The farther it is away in the background, the farther away it looks. And when we get to this front edge here, so now I've got this path as wide as I really want to make it. Okay, I'm going to drop it straight down, and that will make it look like it's coming down a hill. So now, color difference matters a lot. So we can see that the light is coming from this side. So if we put some bushes up here, this back part might disappear just slightly. And it's going to typically be a darker color maybe because of some of the bushes. So I'm not going to worry about shadow or anything like that. But this directional path coming straight down is probably going to get a lot of light to it unless there's something over here blocking it. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little bit more white in this same color. Okay, so you can see it's quite a difference. And this is, guys, really where dimension comes in, is that difference between light and dark here. So forgot to start my timer, so we got a couple extra minutes in our video today. So I'm going to come right to this plane where I want that to change. So the streaks come down this way, and then the sharp drop is what's going to allow it to look like it's just coming straight down the hill. Okay, and so all we did was lighten the color, and we're having the brush strokes come straight down. Now this doesn't have to be exactly even, okay, but I want this to look like it's fallen off a cliff almost. All right, so this little difference area in here, we can kind of pat our brush off so we don't have quite as much of the color, and you can just sort of blend it a little bit. Okay, and that gradient will make it, the softer the gradient is from one color to another, the more it will look rounded. The sharper that edge is, the more of a sharp edge it will look like. Okay. So we're gonna pull some of these colors here, and we want this to look like it just sort of drops off into the water down here. Now, if I pull it this way, then we can start to see the path move once it reaches the bottom. Okay, so we're just going to pull a little bit of this over this way, and we can make it look like it hits the bottom. Okay, so we can play with our color just a little bit as we come in, and this little edge right here at the bottom, I'm going to make it just slightly darker. So I'm going to pull up some of this sort of upper color and put it right here at the bottom, so it looks like it's got a little edge to it. Okay. And we don't want flat color. So again, I'm just kind of putting in some shape here. I'm going to throw a couple rocks up here at the top too that sort of will anchor this piece, because right now it looks like a waterfall out of dirt. And that's not what we want. But again, we want that color here so that when it's a little bit darker underneath, it shows variation and it shows depth. Okay, so as we're coming through here, we can change the lay of the land however we decide. Okay, so maybe this thing comes out, you know, even into the water a little bit. There could be a couple pieces that kind of jut out into the water, and so we can make it look a little bit more like actual land versus just some paint on the page. Okay, and we'll play with this a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to put a little bit of a darker color in there just to really show that difference in change when it hits the bottom. We really want to show that difference. There we go. Okay, and those color variations really show some depth. Okay, so I can even just pat in some of that darker color. But you can see right here where there's the light in the back and the dark in the front, it starts to look like something's behind that. So the sharper the edge is, the more of an abrupt change it will look like. So if we want to fade that out a little bit, we just give it a little bit of fluff. Okay, I'm going to throw a little bit over here just to give us a little bit of a darker edge going on in there, and we can just pull it out a little bit. Okay, so again, the farther away you are from this picture, the less you're going to be able to see some of these little natural details, but we really want to put in a variation of color. Okay, so we've got, you know, some beach land going on down here. We've got an area for some bushes and that sort of thing. I'm going to add a little bit more detail into this path color in a real light tone. Okay, so again, we want to have a representation of the white more than just some brown dark path. So I don't want this to be pure white. I want to have it be sort of a real light brown. And we're just going to put in a little bit here. Okay, so we just want a little bit to where we're not covering up all of that dark. Okay, and when we start with these lighter colors, you can see they start to really show a lot more. Okay, so when we do this, it's a very light touch. We're going to have it come drop right off that thing. Okay, and you can see some of that underneath color allows this lighter color to really show up. Okay, so I'm just going to get a little bit more going on in the back here. We're going to add a few little extra pieces going on. And so always be aware of the angle of your brush and the pressure that you're putting onto it. And immediately you can start to control how things look. Okay, so you see those very light strokes, but that immediately shows this grade that's coming down and into the water. Okay, so I'm just going to put a little bit of color in there. All right, so we've sort of got this flowing out down the lane around the corner. Okay, and again, the more variations of color that you put into your painting, the more depth it will show. Okay, so you don't want to cover up all the dark stuff. All right, now I'm going to grab one more little bit of white, and I don't want a lot. Okay, so we just want a little bit on the tips here, and this is where it's really going to make it look snowy. So now we've got some real light colors going on, but the white is the real difference maker. Okay, so I just want to have real light touches with this, and I don't want everything to be white. Okay, I really want to allow some of this to actually stay some of this darker color. Okay, and where we just get that little bit of white going on, those pieces really stand out. So we're going to keep throwing on our little bits of pieces and tone changes. We'll get a little bit of white in here. Okay, and it will blend the longer you continue to put on. So if you ever need to reload, just come back and grab a little bit more and you're back in action. Okay, so these are cool pieces that we can throw in to change the effect. So this is really what I wanted to focus on a little bit today, is where you start doesn't have to determine where you're going. Okay, so you can always change your mind at some point. Maybe this has a little bit of texture to it. Okay, and the more you beat at it, the softer this will be. So if you want it to have clear, distinct lines, you got to touch it and walk away. Okay, so if I just put this on and let it go, and don't come back over it, okay, that's when you can get those individual pieces to happen. Now again, if I want something else going on over here, we can always add a little bit more. We just get a little bit of dark color going on, throw in a little bit of rock looking formation. Okay, and again, the dark needs to be there so that you can see the light. Okay, so we can have a little dark rock going on down here, and maybe he's got another little buddy over here of a rock. And the bigger you make these, the closer they look. Okay, so we can throw a little bit of light color back on it. And you can play with these as much as you want. Okay, and this is impressionist painting. Okay, so the magic of this is that it doesn't have to look exactly like something. Okay, a lot of it is the mind playing tricks on, oh, what's going on over here? Why is this so dark? That looks like almost like a hole behind the mountain. So if we wanted to have, a stack of rocks coming up the side and another little path, and this became very dark back here, we can create almost like a tunnel looking effect. So again, playing on the different pieces that make it look like different aspects within the world, that's what makes it fun. That's what makes it really look like there's some things going on. Okay, so again, I just want to show you guys some techniques. However you paint this out on your own can be up to you completely. But now we've got some sort of level changes and some things going on. We've got a little bit more of a whitish color. And again, when you're using a dirty brush like this, it won't stay a pure color. So it's not exactly white. It has a little bit of light brownish to it, so that it allows that dirt color to come through. Okay, So again, this sort of looks like a dirt waterfall. So I want to break this up a little bit more with a couple of rocks. Now I'm going to grab just a little bit of black, and again, black goes a really long way within this. And I'm going to come over here to my light color, and it does have some brown into it, but it's just going to make it a real dark gray. Okay, so see how we have brown on brown down here? It doesn't quite look like rocks distinctly. Okay, but if we throw in some grays and we make some adjustments and we have a little bit of coloration change going on, it can make it look a little bit easier to the eye to determine, oh, maybe those are some rocks going on. Okay, so and then even back in here where it needs to be a little bit more of an abrupt change, can put in some of that gray color and it will look like a sharper edge. All right, so maybe we've got some rocks sticking out here right in the middle. Okay, so I'm just going to put a little bit of this gray color in here, and a rock can be any shape you want. So the initial shape is not that big of a deal. It's what do you do after that? How do you put the coloration difference so that it looks like an actual rock? So some of it needs to be lighter and some of it needs to be darker. So I'm going to get a little touch of the black over here, kind of smooth it out, and I'm going to put this over on one side. And we want to put the dark color on the side away from the sun, away from the light source. Okay, so the dark side's always going to be on the opposite side from the light source. And then the lighter side is always going to be closest. So if I put some of that over here, you can see that white really stands out. So you can use that dark side and sort of pull this through. And as you blot and put some pieces in, it starts to give it a little bit of depth and color variation. And so you can sort of even just go back and forth within your darks and your lights and kind of put some pieces in here, and this will start to become more and more of an actual rock looking formation. So rocks are pretty random. They don't typically have a standard pattern. However, you usually need something to sort of sit on. So down here, if I want this to look like there's a rock sitting here in this pathway, I need to add some shadow behind and in front. So I'm going to grab a little bit more of this darker brown color and come down underneath and just pull it down a little bit. So now that looks like it's sort of sitting up on a ledge. And again, if I want to define that back edge a little bit and get some more of that darker color, okay, and put it up here. And rocks are not evenly formatted, right? They're a real individual piece. So you want to have some parts that are light and dark that just kind of vary back and forth. They don't necessarily need to have individual replications, I guess is what I'm looking for. You're not going to make the same rock twice. So you can start to put little lines in the rock. So this will make it look like it's sort of one rock in front of another. And again, the more variation you have in color, the more depth it will look like the rock has. So we got a little bit of rock formation going on in here. We're going to go ahead and put some more up here on the top. We'll get some more of this brown color. I'm going to start with a little bit darker color here, just to sort of save us some time. And again, you can make these rocks in any formation you want. All right, but the color and the depth are really two pieces that allow them to look like rocks. And I've been using this brush the whole time. You can use whatever brush you want. So let me throw this in some water. And we can even use a smaller brush like this so you can get to some more detailed stuff. So we'll just use that same color we got going on here. And we can sort of make this however we want it to look in the shape of the rock. Okay, so there's one going on there. And the farther you get in the back of the painting, the smaller you can make stuff, and it will look like it's farther away. Okay? So if we put one way back here, we just want a little tiny rock going on. And when you overlap that thing, where it comes just down into the path, that's where it really starts to stand out. Okay, I'm going to put one more. Don't touch your wet paint. I'm going to put one back here in the bushes. Maybe he's got a little friend. Okay, and then we'll come back with some light colors. So we'll grab a little bit of this white. And again, I'm sort of dabbing it off so it's in between the dark and the light. I don't want it to, be pure white, or else everything will look like snow. So we want to have sort of a mixed medium of color within our rock. So in the back ones, again, you don't want those far away ones to be very light. You don't want them to be very detailed, okay? So this little stroke that comes over the top of this rock is what separates them. And then this one will also have its own little sort of light source on the right side going on. And that's what creates the look of a rock with some depth, is just that little bit of color variation. Okay, so we're going to have a little rock going on over here. And we can leave a little bit of these strokes too, because there is actual snow going on in this picture here. Okay. So we'll get a little bit more white here. I just want to make this a little bit more distinct in the color change. Okay. And then maybe a little bit right here. It's very similar to how you make the mountains. And it's just color variation, okay? So we don't really have an exact idea of where this is going to come out or how it sits. It's just that dark and light combination. So the darker pieces are where it really looks like farther away. Make a little dark in here. Make this very dark. Okay, and we can even throw a little crack in the rock here. Okay, give it a little bit of dimension. And if you want to just touch a little light and throw in a little bit of, real light color here and there, again, it just adds dimension to what's going on. Okay, so we've got a few rocks going on there. We'll finish these out in the back. Again, the farther away we get, the less detail you want to have. Okay, so just a little bit. We just want a little bit going on so they sort of look like rocks. Okay, so Impressionist painting is really what Bob Ross did that allowed him to become really well known, because he made it look like something, where he wasn't putting in all the detail, but he did such a good job allowing your eye to create the rest of the painting. Okay, and that's really the magic of what I took away from his lifetime of work, was simply how to take these techniques and make them your own, and really as though you can do something that seems very difficult. I've talked with so many people, they're like, how do you paint those things? How does it work? And so that's why I started this YouTube channel, was to sort of show people that, I'm not a magician with a paintbrush. I'm over here just playing around and trying things and adding light and dark colors to it, so it, starts to have some difference in values and things. And, maybe the rock comes up here just a little bit. We'll add some more on it, And again, just like this, you can decide, I want it to look a certain way, and I see something else happening that I didn't plan for originally, so we're gonna add that in there, So I have a real good time with this. I hope you guys are enjoying yourselves. We're trying to keep these to about a half an hour, and again, I'm in no rush, as you can tell, to try and finish a painting right away. We want to really enjoy this process, so I'm not going to be in a rush in these videos, we're going to really continue to just have a good time, talk about concept, and work through the painting at whatever level it needs to come to. Okay, whatever speed comes out of the thing is how it's supposed to come out. Because enjoyment is really the point of this for me. I didn't start painting to become a good painter. I just needed a way to slow down in life a little bit. We deal with so many crazy things in the world, and we never really have control over most of it. So in the world of painting, you get to sort of take back that control in ways that, as a parent or as a spouse or whatever roles you're playing in life, sometimes those can break you down a little bit. You get frustrated, and there's too much going on, and you just want to feel like you can handle it. And so, yeah, this is something I can sit here and touch and play with all day, obviously, and make different effects and whatever. So we've got kind of the idea that there's something going on there. So over here on the side, I do want to put a little bush structure that is not quite as dark as this, so that it sort of covers up this edge. Having things behind stuff creates a little bit of mystery. We're not really sure, always what's going on, or how is this happening that there's, rocks here and whatever. So putting things behind stuff really, again, just creates that depth of some extra things going on. So I'm going to play with this just a tad bit more, I want to really accentuate this difference in the rock here. Okay, so I'm just going to add a little bit of dark over here on this one side, and throw a little bit in there. Okay, so I don't want my rocks to look too uniform. Okay, like that. We'll throw a little bit more defined rocks down here. So really, rocks are just kind of a back and forth artwork of dark to light, and you can get real crazy. That's a pretty strong color, black, so we can throw a good amount of white over the top of this and really play with some of the gradients. And the closer things get to you, the more the darker they can be. Okay, so it will show more detail. And one thing I have noticed as I've done painting over the years is that sometimes walking away from it and coming back is the best way to do it, because you really see things a little bit differently, and you can kind of get into a pattern of the same sort of things, and having some difference in what you're putting out sometimes just takes a minute. You can step back and look at it and that sort of stuff. So alright, I'll get a little bit more dark going on in here just to break up this back line. I really want that to show through. You gotta be real careful with how dark you get this stuff, though, because black is just a powerful color. Okay, good, I like that. Got some things going on, got a little color variation, got some movement in our rocks. And again, light always from the right, okay? At least in this painting. We're not saying it always has to be from the right, but in the painting where you've decided that your light source is over here, that's where it needs to continue to come from the whole time. So everything on the right-hand side is just going to be a little bit darker as we go, or going to be lighter on the right-hand side. Okay, so we've got a little bit of rocks going on down here. And again, you can put as much detail into this as you want, but just that variation of real dark and lighter colors, that's really what makes it have some depth and some detail to it. So we've got about 5 minutes left, so I'm going to jump back into my fun little round brush here. And so we want to put some bush structure going on. I had a little bit just to sort of define the path, but we want it to kind of come onto the path. And again, the farther away you go, the thinner the layers need to be in the back to actually look proportionate. So the closer stuff gets, the taller it seems to be. Okay, so we're going to throw a few little bushes over in here, and I'm going to start with a little bit of this brown color. Okay, and I'm going to put some green into it. Okay, so I just have a little bit going on. It's not as dark as this one. And I'm just going to pat out a little bit of bush structure to come over this little rock ledge here. Okay. Get a little bit more going on. And because I already have some stuff here, I don't have to worry too much about how much goes on there. Coloration is something we're going to adjust as we put layers on, so I'll get a little bit more of that green going on. Good. There we go. All right. Okay, and this little bit that comes in front of it is really what kind of pushes those rocks back a little bit. All right, so we're going to continue with some of this, mixing these two together. And as we go back, I'm going to just touch the white. Okay, just a little bit of white in there, and try and lighten this up so that as we get farther away, those bushes look farther away because they're not quite as bright, or not quite as dark, excuse me. Okay, so get a little more paint on there. It's always a thing you'll notice. It takes more paint than you think. Okay, so we've got an individual bush going on there. We can add a little more white. Really sort of get this loaded up. And I'm just going to put a couple bushes in the background here. And again, some of them can hang over the rocks just a little bit here. Get a little bit more over in here. We'll just kind of soften that edge a little bit. And keep adding just a tad bit more white as I go back. So it sort of breaks up the definition of where that path lives. Okay, so you kind of erase a little bit. That's okay. All right, so I'm going to get a little more of a lighter color on the back here. And we're going to put a couple pops of color. So I hope you guys are enjoying yourselves today. We're finishing up a series of this painting. And we will continue with it as we go, and we'll just add little pieces until we decide that we've got a finished painting. So appreciate your time hanging out with me today. We've got about 1 more minute here. So I'm just going to add another little bush structure going on over here and darken up this green just a tad. Yeah, we've got a nice mint green going on. So I'm just going to throw a little bush structure in over here. I don't want too much going on. I don't want to cover up all of my pretty rocks. Okay, so just a little bit in there. Get some white on there. We'll give it a little bit of pop for some sparkle. Okay, a little more white to it. And I really like this rounded brush for this because it gives more of a bush type structure in the texture that you're putting out there. So I really want to get a little white in the back here. Good. Okay. Now, down here is where we're going to start next time, and we're going to continue to play over here, and we're going to add a cabin to the back. So hopefully you guys catch up with me next time. We're going to add a little cabin piece over here. It's going to connect into the water. We may finish the painting next time, so make sure you guys aren't missing any episodes. If you do want to follow along, I appreciate that. But again, I appreciate your time for being here even today, and we'll see you guys in the next one.